everybody? Welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today I am here to review Ms.Marvel Episode 1. Now, I have been anticipating this show for quite some time. Now, as a lot of you know, I made a video, and I talk about it anytime I bring up Ms.Marvel. Well, not too long ago, going in on the racist, sexist, awful people that were attacking the comic itself. Because it's so funny, when the comic first came out, Ms.Marvel, I remember there being this rhetoric around Marvel Comics at the time. Now, I wasn't reading Marvel Comics at the time. I had no clue who Ms.Marvel was. In fact, the first time I saw Ms.Marvel was in the Marvel's, the Lego Marvel 2 game. You know, I didn't see Ms.Marvel till Lego Marvel 2 came out, and she was a part of it. You know, so I hadn't really seen her. And then Captain Marvel came out, of course. And I started going, well, maybe I should take a peek at Ms.Marvel, because when Captain Marvel was coming out, I heard a lot of rumblings, they gotta do Ms.Marvel if they're gonna do Captain Marvel. And then I started reading it, and I said it before, Ms.Marvel, the comic book, if you've never read it, the original comic book is, it's a modern day it's a modern day Spider-Man. It's a different take on, it's like a different take on Spider-Man. You know what it's like? It's like Static Shock. The cartoon show Static Shock, where it's a different take on what it's like to be a superhero, what it's like to be a teenage superhero. Well, Spider-Man set the bar, set the standard of teenage superheroes and the problems and all the shit they have to deal with. Ms.Marvel takes that, and Static Shock also did a great job with that, which I'm hoping they could do in the show. And then you got Miles and stuff also. But Ms.Marvel took that idea to another level by making her a Pakistani. Is it Pakistan or Pakistani? I never know how to quite say that. Muslim. Is it Muslim? Oh, man. I'm all over the place. But making her Pakistani. But, never mind. But that puts a different context on the growing up in America. She has immigrant parents. Which immediately, anybody who's grown up with immigrant parents, which I haven't, but I have friends who have. I know people who have. It's a different upbringing, man. It's not that it's any different than you. It's not totally different, but there's just a demeanor. There's just a weight to it. You know what I mean? Because it's one thing for your parents to be raised in America. They got uncles and grandfathers from here. They got great-grandfathers, they got great-grandmothers from here. When both your parents are from the place you're born, it's kind of there's something, but it's not as bad. You know what I mean? It's not, the weight isn't as bad, because everything's kind of it's just a different feel to it. But when your parents are from another country, particularly if your parents are from a country where that isn't as advanced, or they're from a country where coming over here is a privilege, where coming to America is a bigger upgrade to their lives than where they were. Immigrant parents, they carry a different kind of mentality. And the weight of the scratching and clawing to get here, we earned being here, we're gonna scrap the weight of who they are from where they came from over here. It's a lot of times put on their children who grow up in America, Kamala, who grew up in America. They don't feel the weight of being immigrants. They weren't in another country going through shit and having to kind of almost escape or come over here to get away from whatever was going on in their own country. They don't, your kids, when they have a child who's born here, they don't feel that weight. So it's hard to understand completely where you're I said, I can only this is just me kind of trying to get in the mindset of a kid growing up with immigrant parents. Maybe someone grew up with immigrant parents. They comment in the comment section and let me know how it would be below. But from that perspective, I think that was an interesting take to have. And then on top of that, she has superpowers. Kamala's a super fan. She's a nerd. She's a dork. She loves superheroes. She does her own fanfic. She's a real nerd. I mean, she does D&D. she's a legit nerd. And first of all, breaking a lot of the stigma, you know, because for a lot of times, you know, you didn't consider girls, you know, girls to be super nerds or like as advanced into that world because a lot of this shit was pushed towards boys. But you know, her being a super fan of Captain Marvel as well is awesome. And all of that comes through in this show. This is I don't know if this is the best of the MCU shows, but it is for damn sure the most charming and delightful and heartfelt so far an episode in of any of the MCU shows. It is full of so much heart. There's a bit of a lot of things in this. There's a bit of Scott Pilgrim. There's a bit of Into the Spider-Verse, and there's a bit of John Hughes. But of course, there's a bit of Spider-Man Homecoming, which Spider-Man Homecoming to me holds a special place in my heart. It really does. I love that movie. Like, really love that movie. Like, I have, like, I loved it. And it's funny. One of the things that I loved about Spider-Man Homecoming was how lived in it was to see a teenager grow, like how all the characters were people who grew up in a world full of heroes, and to see that that had an effect on all of them. That growing up in this world full of heroes had an effect on all of these, you know, all of these kids, had an effect on Peter. You see Bruce Banner's picture up in their science lab as, like, you know, brilliant inventors. You see, like, Howard Stark on the mural of, like, brilliant inventors, like all these interesting things, conversations about Thor, the damage control. Like, I loved how they worked in the MCU itself, as in, it's like, this is what it would be like if Peter Parker grew up in this world. And it was awesome, and I love that. They take that a step further in Ms. Marvel. All of the things, some of the fun MCU things that I loved about in Spider-Man Homecoming, they take that and they ratchet it up to an even awesomer degree. I mean, just the opening alone, where she's doing YouTube videos and she's, like, posting up, like, her versions, her, like, animated version of the battle the battle in Endgame and stuff, and, like, talking about how apparently turns out how Scott Lang has a podcast, and how people think that Thor might be a gamer, and like the way they organically worked in the MCU stuff, the world, it feels like, and like they really, this is what I love about the MCU. It's something that only the MCU can do, because only the MCU has a fully functioning cinematic universe to really be able to do this with. Where it's like, no, you feel like it's so weird, because there are parts of this show that almost don't feel like reality, because this is a world where superheroes exist, and in a world where superheroes exist, of course there'd be people making YouTube videos about it. Of course there'd be people having conspiracy videos. Of course there'd be Comic-Con like events that about these superheroes, as they have an Avengers Con, which is funny because I spoke about that the other day. Avengers Con, something they might do. And if Avenger Con looks like this, I'm going day one. Ooh. If Avenger Con looks like that, day one. I'll be at Avenger Con day one. But yeah, man, I think her name is Ivan Vellani, whatever. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. But once again, the MCU does something. There are two things that the MCU has over DC. That these two things will never change, and they will never, ever, ever allow DC to overtake the MCU, is Marvel has the ability to turn no-name actors into stars, and to turn lesser-known characters into A-list characters. And it's an ability that they continue to do, first with Simu Liu as in Shang-Chi, which was a great casting. Granted, I knew Simu was before that happened, but still amazing casting. And it continues here with Vellani. Like, didn't know who she was, had never heard of her. This is crazy, people. This is her first big on-screen, I think this might be her first on-screen role. And this girl is a natural, dude. She just has this charisma to her. She has this charm to her. She has this wit to her. She is totally, like, there are a lot of characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe who you kind of go, like, oh, I'd love to hang out with this person. There's a lot of female characters, of course, so you're like, oh man, I'd love to date this person. She genuinely feels like someone I would be hanging out with. If I was in high school, me and Kamala would be friends. I'm just telling you this right now. Me and Kamala would be friends because we'd be just geeking out about the same shit. I'm like, yo, Kamala, like, what's going on? Like, love it, dude. Love the family dynamic. It's really hitting home with that. And like I said, they really haven't gotten into her powers yet, so I really won't talk about it either. But overall, this may be the best first episode. Like, I don't know. There's been some really good ones. Like the first episode of Moon Knight was real mysterious. First episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier was so fucking good. I love that first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I thought that first episode was everything. First episode of WandaVision is really fucking good too, but it's like, it's so weird and it's out there. First episode of Hawkeye is fun, but you know, leaves a little to be desired. You really need to see that second episode to appreciate it. I'm gonna say it. I think this is the best first episode. Now, who knows how it's gonna wrap up? Who knows how the second episode's gonna go? But as of right now, Ms.Marvel, it's getting a 10 out of 10. I loved it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's got style for days. It's got style. It's got creativity. I mean, the whole thing they're doing with the fucking background and the artwork moving and changing, the whole thing they're doing with the text messages showing up on the road and showing up on the side, like, they are getting so creative. Those colors are just popping, man. Like, I don't know why, but those colors were popping in this show. Like, it's so funny because, like, I guess looking back, most of the shows so far, outside of, like, maybe Hawkeye, even though that gets a little, you know, outside of Hawkeye, maybe, all the shows have been so dark, or, like, you know, MCU dark, and this one is so upbeat and so fun, you know, like, honestly, I just had such a good time watching it. Anyways, thank you guys for the Comic Game Movie Show. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. What did you think of Ms.Marvel episode 1? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you having a blast with it? Do you agree with the 96% it's got on Rotten Tomatoes? I certainly do. Anyways, thank you guys again. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.